that has come to us and the great good in front of us, we also have to think of our brothers and sisters at this time who are suffering. Our brothers and sisters in Syria who are struggling against a monstrous regime, a regime of Alawis who believe that Allah became a man. Ali, they worship as a man. The Assad regime, those who are with them, they are from what is known as the Nusayriya. They are not Muslims. They are not Muslims. And they are over our brothers and sisters in Syria, massacring them. They've done the massacres before, and this is a repeat what happened back in the 80s under Hafiz Assad. But know and have no doubt that their struggle is a just struggle against those who have nothing to do with Islam. It is only a front. Their beliefs are beliefs outside of Islam. Even the Shia of Iran, the Ithna Ashariya, rejected them before. They were not considered to be even a part of the Shia from the Ithna Ashariya. But Khomeini brought them in. He included them. But they are true enemies of Islam in the worst and most open form. And we have our brothers and sisters suffering in Burma, now being slaughtered. Slaughtered on a scale not seen previously in Burma. They have been slaughtered all along, but now it has intensified. And we have to be concerned about them also, and to pray and ask Allah to protect them. And our brothers and sisters in Ethiopia who are suffering with another evil regime in the name of Islam, the Ahbash coming out of Lebanon, being forced upon them by the government to accept their beliefs as the beliefs which are against Quran and Sunnah, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They call themselves Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they are everything but Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And they are being pushed by the government onto the people of Ethiopia. And the ulama and the young leaders have stood up and resisted and demanded that the decision for the Muslim community be made by those chosen by the Muslims and not those appointed by the government. And they are in jail. They're being tortured in jail now. Some are being killed. So the Muslims of Ethiopia, in spite of their huge numbers, most people don't even know, there's over 40 million Muslims in Ethiopia. They are actually the majority in Ethiopia. But they have been dominated by Christian regimes which have been supported by Western colonial powers and continue to be supported by them. They don't even have a single Islamic university in the whole country. This is the state of our brothers and sisters in Ethiopia. So we need to pray and think about them today, on this day. Of our own happiness, we have to think about them and their suffering. As the Prophet ﷺ described us, like one body, where one part suffers, the rest of us also is worried and in a state of concern and care and a desire to want to help them and to use whatever we have. What have we taken out of Ramadan from charity, knowing that Ramadan was the month, the charitable month? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was more charitable in Ramadan than any other month. And this month we have tried to be more charitable. Then we need to carry on with this spirit of charity in support of our brothers and sisters in Syria, in Burma, and in Ethiopia, as well as many other parts of the Muslim world. These are just the major concerns that are on the international scale, but there are many others, whether it is Chechnya, whether it is Afghanistan, all of these other areas all require our du'as, all require our support. But brothers and sisters, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd. For those who were worshipping Ramadan, know that Ramadan is finished. It's dead. But for those who are worshipping the Lord of Ramadan, then that Lord is ever living and never dying. And this is what we need to focus on. What was Ramadan? What have we left behind? Was it something real, or was it something surreal? It appeared real, but it wasn't really Ramadan. It was just the usual tradition and customs. We gained weight. We feasted instead of fasting. We spent our nights in play and folly. Now is the time also on this day to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we have messed up our Ramadan in that way, then we need to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make the intention, if Allah blesses us to reach the next Ramadan, to correct it. And we have to have that same spirit that we seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in forgiveness, to be forgiving to our brothers and sisters. We're coming out of Ramadan. Some of us have still carried from Ramadan some bad feelings, some ill feelings towards our brothers and sisters, maybe towards our own family members. There's some of us who don't speak to certain members of our family because of incidents which took place. We don't have anything to do with them. This is evil. The Prophet ﷺ had said, لا يدخل الجنة قاطع الرحم. One who breaks family ties will not enter paradise. This is the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, this is what we want for ourselves. We want paradise, and we cannot do it in this way. We have to mend those ties. This is a day for mending ties. And parents have a role, have a responsibility out of Ramadan, a responsibility to their children, first and foremost. We are the ones who will be asked. Whatever happens here in Toronto to the Muslims, we as parents, we will be asked first and foremost. What did we do? We have a primary duty of raising our children as Muslims. That is our primary duty. Not to raise them as doctors, lawyers, engineers. If they happen to be, mashallah, that's good. That's additional khair, it's good. But what Allah is going to ask us about, first and foremost, is did we raise them as Muslims? Because if they were raised as a Muslim and they end up being garbage collectors, then they are greater in the sight of Allah than one who was not raised as a Muslim and ended up being the top doctor in the world. That's the reality. The top doctor in the world who has a Muslim name but doesn't know what Islam is confused, he is nothing in the sight of Allah. Whereas that garbage collector, that taxi driver who knows his Islam, he fears Allah, he has taqwa, he is everything in the sight of Allah amongst us. So know that distinction. Don't be fooled by what this world is telling us. Of course, if we can get both together, that's even greater. But we know where our focus has to be as parents. Our focus has to be on the iman of our children. So to raise these children with iman, it means we have to be actively involved in their upbringing. We can't just drop them off in schools, whether it is a Muslim school or a public school or whatever. Drop them off on the weekend school at Abu Huraira or the Hifz class or whatever. We can't do it. because we are primarily responsible for their education. Nobody else can do it like we can. They can help, and we do need help. But we have to understand that is our responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَا يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا وَلَا يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا. One who doesn't honor and respect our elders and is not merciful to our young is not from us, not a true Muslim. It's a general statement which addresses, on one hand, the responsibility of parents. Our being merciful to our children is making the effort for them to know the deen. This is where the true mercy lies. Some of us think that being merciful means if they want to get this thing, we let them have it. They want to get that thing, we want to let them have it. They want to play, games all the time on TV, let them play, We just allow them. No. This is not Islamic education. This is not being merciful to them. This is being unmerciful to them. It's being lazy. It takes it off our hands. We don't have to worry. They're quiet. They shut up. You let them do what they want to do. They'll be quiet until they want to do something else. And you think you have been merciful. You have not been merciful. Because they, on the day of judgment, will curse us. Because there was no mercy there. We have been unfair, unkind, uncaring for them. If we really cared, and what is the care? Care is about reaching paradise. Then we have to help them. That is our responsibility, to help them get on that path to paradise. And for the kids, as the Prophet ﷺ had said, without honoring and respecting our parents, then we're not real Muslims. It's just talk. We're not walking the talk. It's just talk. That's the bottom line. In Islam, respect for parents is so high that Allah commands us to do our best to be as honorable as possible to them immediately after telling us to believe in Allah. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah has prescribed that we only worship Him and to be kind, honoring, generous to our parents. We're living in a society where the abuse of parents far exceeds the abuse of children. The society is all focused on the abuse of children, so much so that you can't even spank your kids. Finish. But when you look at the rates of child abuse, it's like 1 in 10. 1 in 10 children are abused in North America. But when you look at the rate of parent abuse, meaning children abusing their parents, it's 1 in 4. This is 1 in 4. This is the sign of a crumbling civilization, where the children hate their parents. They don't care for their parents. They will talk back to their parents. They will beat up their parents. They will steal from their parents. They will throw them in old people's homes. They don't really care to look after them. When the parents who raised those children, when they were unable to look after themselves, are now treated like that, this is the end of a civilization. This is it, civilization crumbling from within. Externally, the technology, everything is all there, but internally, it is crumbling. Because the foundation of the civilization is the family. when that family is sound, where parents see the responsibility, they raise those children in love and mercy, and the children raise and look after their parents in love and mercy, knowing that as they looked after them, their duty is to look after their parents. They speak to them in an honorable way. They don't harm them in any way. وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. We're not even supposed to say uff. What's that? To our parents. But today we know what is happening in the community. This disease of parent abuse is spreading amongst our own children. But this is partly because parents didn't do their job in the first place. So this is, as they call it, chickens coming home to roost. And as a community, we also have a responsibility, what is called fard kifaya, a general responsibility on the community to produce certain institutions here which will protect the Muslim community as a whole from what is displeasing to Allah. As a community, we have the curse of Allah on us if we don't fulfill these responsibilities. Among them, we should have a YMMA. What's that? Young Muslim Men's Association. Separate from the masjids. Institution where young people, the youths, can gather with direction of elders, and they can interact with each other, they can hang out, they can feel comfortable, play wholesome games together. They need a place like this. They don't have it. The masjids, our focus is on building masjids after masjids after masjids. But is it really masjids that we need? I mean, masjids, we can play anywhere. We can pray anywhere. What we need are institutions which will fulfill the social needs of our community. We need to produce this. Over this next year, those of us who are in a position to make this happen, to produce a YMMA, or a women's version, or combined, those who are in a position to do it know that you will be answerable before Allah for this, because on you it's fard ain. On the rest of the community who don't have the means but should come together and do it, it's fard kifaya. But on those of you that have the knowledge, have the means, have the ability, then know that Allah will ask you about it. We have amongst us people with a lot of means. A lot of means. We see what we have done in Ramadan in terms of raising support for the masjid. We need to do something similar to establish such an institution. We also need to establish banks, Islamic banks. The whole time I was here in Ramadan, all discussions always ended up in riba, the perpetual concern, mortgages. Why? You know, student loans, we have to pay this and pay that. And what do? Haram. Everybody knows haram. They know it's haram, but what can we do? What is the way out? We justify it. We don't have any choice. No, we do have a choice. We can establish Islamic financial institutions which can serve our needs. Problem is we need Islamic financial institutions like the masjid. One whose founders have in their mind the idea they want to serve Allah, worship Allah through this Islamic bank. not a business primarily. Not a business where we're just looking to make money, because when we're doing it to make money, that is our main concern, then we are ready to compromise. We'll compromise here, we'll cut corners there, and then people say in the end, what's the difference between you and the regular bank? You're charging more and doing the same thing. Because those behind it are still focused on the dunya. We need, like the masjid, we know people in the masjid is not making money. We're raising money, money's coming in, but services are coming out and we're benefiting from it. In the same way, we need Islamic banking like that. Of course, people will have to be paid and all these other things come along with it. And maybe some profits may be made, but that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to save the community from the curse of riba. Yamhaqullahu riba. Allah has taken out all good from interest, from riba. So we need such institutions. And we need Muslim schools, Islamic schools. This again is a community responsibility which we cannot afford to shirk. We have to do it. We are losing children at a rate that has been unknown before. The number of children, this is here. We go back home to our countries, it's not happening. Yeah, we're losing people there too, but not like the scale here. We're 1 in 20 kids graduating from high school, 1 in 20 or 2 in 20 know what it is to be a Muslim, are clear, we are Muslims. I have a purpose in life, that is to worship Allah. And whatever I do should be done in a way which is pleasing to Allah, following Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 1 or 2 in 20 are coming out like that. The other 18 or 19 are coming out confused. They don't know. They're questioning why Islam says this, why Islam says that, why doesn't Islam allow this and that, and what's going on in the society. They don't know. What really is Islam? Is there really Allah? Or is it just a figment of our imagination? The majority are graduating like that. At least back home, it's only a few that might graduate like that, 1 or 2. It's the opposite way around. They may not have the opportunities for further education, etc., back home, but they're better in terms of their deen. They're saved. So if we are going to be here, then we have to justify our presence here by making sure that we provide what our future generations need in terms of maintaining Islam and conveying it to the next generation. Otherwise, we're just bringing in more and more people are coming in. We're producing more and more kids, but we're losing them at a rate. Our numbers are increasing. We are producing, yes, the rest of Canada is, 1.2 kids or whatever, and we are 4 or 5 kids. So by numbers, yeah, they say in 50 years' time, we should probably outnumber the rest of the people. But these numbers that we have, what is this? It's quantity, but it's not quality. There will be quantity, yeah, we'll have more numbers, but they may as well be John, Muhammad, and Paula Abdul. Right? May as well. No difference. So we have to put into place the necessary community institutions to preserve Islam within our generation and for the generations to come. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. So brothers and sisters, let us go away today reflecting on these thoughts, trying to take from Ramadan what Allah offered us as a guide for the rest of our year. Let us come out of Ramadan and make a difference. Let us make this Ramadan as real as we can. We don't know whether we will reach the next one. So many of us died between the last one and this one. Some died in Ramadan. We don't know. So let's try to make the best of the opportunity Allah has given us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our mistakes, our sins, our neglect of the deen, neglect of our responsibilities. I ask Allah to help us to establish our iman, to establish the principles of iman, to establish our deen, our salah, to establish our zakah, and to establish hajj in our lives if Allah has given us that opportunity. I ask Allah to forgive our brothers and sisters, our relatives who have died during this period and have died before, to forgive them and make their graves places of rest and not places of trial and tribulations. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to fulfill our responsibilities to our children and to fulfill our responsibilities to our elders. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to look after our families, to help us to look after our families, to help us to fulfill our responsibility to them. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to establish the iman in our hearts, and to keep us on Sirat al-Mustaqim, and to allow us to leave this world with our last breath, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah.